Hi, this is Andy from Mixed In Key. Today I'm going to be walking you through how to use Captain Chords. Let's start with key and scale. When you open up Captain Chords, you'll find a splash screen which you need to choose the key and scale to get started. You can select an option to only show that once, which I'd recommend doing so that once you get used to using Captain Chords, you can just open it up and just get straight into it. So for this tutorial, we'll just use A minor. However, I just want to explain a little bit about the scales or modes. So you can choose the key here, all different keys, and you can choose a scale. Now the scale will determine what notes are included. So if you go for like a minor scale, you will have notes within the key and scale of A minor. And if you change that to major, you'll have slightly different notes. So I'm not going to go into music theory in this. These are the different scales that you can use within Captain Chords. And a good starting point is using major and minor only, and then you could get into the more exotic modes further down the road. A quick rule of thumb is that major keys sound happy and upbeat, and the minor keys sound a little bit more melancholic. So if you're looking for a little bit more serious or sad sounding, somber sounding song, then go with the minor scale. Okay, so we've got the key and scale. We'll just use A minor for this example. So you have your magic buttons here. You also have some extra flavors. We actually used to have a drop-down option here, which was called flavors, and it would give you these chord extensions, these different chords. We just decided to put them here. It looks better, it's easier, quicker to access. So if you were to choose, say, C major, and then you wanted to make it C suspended 4, you could just click on this, and it just changes the chord. And then you've got custom and rest here. So custom just allows you to enter the name of a chord. So you could type in C major like that, and it'll set C major. So it's quite clever. You just type in the chord that you want and it'll put it in. So if there's not a chord that you can find, type it in there and it should come up. Rest. So if we were to, say, have 2 or even 3, 4 chords here, but we didn't want there to be a chord here, for example, we could just press rest and it removes it. So it allows you to have a gap. Then we've got inversion. Now, the inversion is to do with the voicing of the chord, and that means voicing is like the number of notes that are played within the chord. So if I was to play a triad, which is a normal chord, it contains 3 notes. The voicing is how these 3 notes are played. So for example, in this C major, we've got C, E, and G, and C is playing the bass note, if you like, and then E, and then G. If I change this here, the inversion, like this, you'll see the E then becomes the bass note. And if I go second inversion, like so, it changes again. And if I go by default triad, it just plays the normal voicing for that chord, which is C being the root note of the chord, and then E, and then G. Where this becomes really useful is if you have a chord progression, and we'll just do a quick example here. So we'll just let's choose this progression here. Okay, now Captain Chords is clever. It tends to set the inversion automatically, but just let's say, for example, you had, if you created some chords and it ends up like this, and you've got this big leap here, and that's not going to sound great. Let's just play it back. It's too big a jump. So what we can do is, by setting the next chord to minimize leap, it plays the same chord, but it changes the voicing so that there's not such a dramatic leap between the chords. And this sounds much better. I'm sure you'll agree. So then we have octave and complexity. Octave just essentially moves the chord up an octave. So on a keyboard, you have the lower register down here with the lower notes, and then going up high to the high notes. From A1 to A2 is an octave. So it's an octave up, and if you were to go the other way, you've got an octave down. By moving this up, we can then play the chord progression at a higher octave, like so. Like that. And that's really all that does. And it's great because some sounds will sound great at higher octaves, so it's worth playing around with that just to get the sound that you want. And also, if you're trying to write a song that's quite busy, has a lot of chords or a lot of parts, you might want to try using a higher or lower octave just to create some space for the instrument so it's not conflicting with other instruments in your song. Then complexity, what this does, again, this is to do with voicing, and so this increases the voicing. So rather than having just a default triad of 3 notes, if you turn the complexity up, you can add an extra note. And by default, when you first add an extra note, it will add it as a bass note, an octave down. You can see it's an octave down from there. So this is a great way of thickening out your chords, making them sound a bit fatter. And if your track's not too busy, it's a great way of filling it out, like that. Okay, let's move on to the preset progressions. So we have quite a lot of commonly used chord progressions. These have been used in pop songs, just famous songs. They're just generally chord progressions at work. You don't have to use these, but they're a great starting point. So you could pick one, and straight away you have a chord progression that sounds good, and then you can edit it using the either MIDI editing that we now have, like this, splitting chords, moving them, and whatnot. This is a quick way to get an idea started. So if you hear a chord progression you like, from there, fire it in. You can change the lengths of the chords. So if you don't want it to play on every measure, change on every measure, you can have it 2, 3, 4, or even take it down and make it really short, like that. They're a great way to get started. Timing, this one is a little bit more difficult to explain, but what this does is essentially it changes the timing of the chords, but what that means is it changes the duration of each chord, so they're not all the same, so there's some variation. So it's not just playing a chord each measure, because that could sound quite boring. So like if I was to change, let's see, fast changes, and then go for this one here, you can see it's shortened all the chords, but they're not all the same length. So when I play that back, it's going to sound quite interesting, and that can work for a lot of songs. You don't necessarily want long drawn out chords. So using the timing presets is a great way just to get some ideas going quickly, and that's the purpose of these, to speed up that workflow. Then we have the rhythm record, or we have the rhythm settings within here, which includes rhythm record. So if we click on this, we can use preset rhythms, which again are great for getting an idea going. And so using that in combination with the timing is a really great way to get some cool ideas going very quickly. So you can already see an idea sort of coming out of that. And then if we just go back to, I think what we'll do is we'll just clear this here. This is a quick way to clear the canvas. When we talk about the canvas, we're talking about this part here. You could also call it a piano roll. So we just clear this, and we'll just choose another progression. Let's see, this one. And let's say we wanted to keep the chords just like that, but we wanted to make our own rhythm. We had an idea of a rhythm in our head. We can just press this. So if I press clear, the chords disappear like that, and I can just start tapping in a rhythm. Once you've done that, you can press done. You can quantize it. You can set the quantize amount and whether you want it to quantize to the start or end of the note, or both. And then press done, and that just locks it in, commits it to the canvas. And then we can edit it from there. So we can then use MIDI editing, move things around, like we did before. Get it exactly how you want it. Now, we'll move on to space, drum, and swing. So what these options do is allow you to add a humanized element to the sound. So space allows you to change the note length. Got lots of different settings here. For example, equal note length. You can see it changes them all by the same amount. So that's great if you just want to try something quickly, but keep them all uniform. And then you've got strum. And what the strum does is it changes the time where the note plays from the start. So if you can imagine strumming a guitar, when your hand moves down or the plectrum moves down across the strings, they don't all play at the same time. There's a fraction of a second between each string being hit, which creates a strum. And this is what this does. It creates a time difference between these notes being played. So you can actually see if I turn this right up. Let's keep it the same, all going down. You can see if I turn it right up, gradually, imagine a line that would go diagonally up like that. So this one's further back than this one, which is also further back than the bottom one there. And then by changing the setting on that, you can change. Alternate is quite good because it creates some variation, and variation in music is what you want. So it sounds more like a guitar being played rather than a piano. So we can take this off, and then what we'll do for swing, we will change the rhythm. Let's use something like this, and then we will use space to make them a bit shorter and choppier. And then we will use swing. And what swing does is it just moves the notes slightly out of time. It makes it more human, because when you're playing a live instrument, your timing's not going to be perfect. No one has absolutely perfect timing. It's impossible. Only computers can have perfect timing. So if we want to make it sound less computerized and more like it's being played by a human, we can turn the swing up and see it just moves the notes slightly at a time. And we can choose by how much using the quantization amounts here. And then off. And then on. You hear there's a bit of tension in the timing and the rhythm, which is great because it makes it sound more realistic. And you can apply that on a lot of instruments, not just chords, drums, lots of different things, everything actually. So that's the space drum and swing. Then down here we've got the audio presets, so you've got all different styles, so voice styles, strings, plucks. These are specific to Captain Chords, so we have a different set for Captain Melody and Captain Deep and so on. Some of them are crossover because they work with both, so we add them into more than one plugin. So there's lots to choose from. You know, they're all categorized keys, so that's like piano and sounds similar to that. Guitar, lead sounds. And these will be the main sort of melody or riff in your song. Lots to choose from. They're all very modern. They're designed to be used in modern productions, so you shouldn't have to look far to find the sound that you're looking for. If you prefer to sound design or you have your own presets or you have your favorite synth, that's fine because we have plugin hosting here. And you can select VST instrument. You can just pick one of your favorites and it will load up like that, and then you can tweak away or call up a preset that you normally use and it will work within Captain Chords. Okay, and then we have the MIDI out tab. Now, this depends on your DAW, whichever one you're using. In Logic, we wouldn't use this tab specifically. We would use the MIDI effects option that comes for Logic with Captain plugins. And if you click this tutorial, it shows you how to do it for your DAW. So if you're in Ableton and you click that, it will show you how to do it for Ableton. And for Logic, it shows you here, you insert your MIDI effects version of Captain Chords in your instrument channel. So I'll just do a quick demonstration of that. So here we have Silent on an instrument track. And I'll just go in here, choose a preset, see this one will do. And then we'll call up in this MIDI effects option here, we'll go to audio units and Captain Chords, and it just loads up a MIDI effects version. You see it's different here. It's not the same as the instrument version. It's slightly different. So then if we then create a chord progression, so what you have there is Captain Chords triggering Silent 1. Let's go back to Captain Chords. So we've covered audio, plugins. This is just, the audio setting is just the Captain Chord's own sound engine. So we've covered these three. Then we have reverb, delay, filter, and volume. So this is like your mixing section here. So you can add some effects, reverb, delay, and you can change the type of reverb. You can change the type of delay, and you can use the filter. The filter just has one slope, which I find it to be perfect. It's not too extreme. It just gives a nice bit of resonance. So I use that a lot. And then you've got volume as well, which is obviously quite self-explanatory. Now then, moving down to this part here, play audio when closed. So once you've moved your region, this MIDI region here, into your DAW, and you've decided that's it, I've finished my chord progression, I'm going to use it in my song, in the DAW to arrange the full song out, then what you can do, you can switch this on and off. So if you're finished in here and you don't want it to play back from here, just turn it off like that. And then whether you have this left in the verse tab or you've switched to MIDI in, it won't play from inside here. It will only play from the DAW. So let me just demonstrate that. Let's just move, just get rid of this here. Let's just move this chord progression into Captain, into Logic, I should say. And we will then play it back. Now, what you would normally do would be press MIDI in. What that means is the MIDI notes are being generated by the DAW, and Captain Plugins is only outputting the audio, like this. Okay, so that's great. However, if you don't want to do that, you can switch to verse. You can take this away. Okay, and you can just switch this to on, and then so you can see Captain Chords is still playing even when the plugin window is closed, which is really useful. You can toggle it on off, so it just gives you a little bit more of customization for how you want it to behave. Then something we've done recently actually is we moved these labels down to the bottom of Captain Chords, and you can now click on them. It's really useful if you want to be able to audition the chord quickly. Then moving on to these controls here, so this deletes this chord section between these two bars. This option here allows you to record the rhythm for that section only. So if I click that there, I can press this and then get rid of that. And I can create a new rhythm just for that specific part there. And then this option here allows you to split the chord which is within this section. So I'll just show this better. I'll just clear this and we'll just load up another progression. And we'll turn strum down and swing down as well. So let's just say I wanted to make a passing chord between here and here. I could then click on this one, like this, split, and then what I could do is move this part here. And then I could use MIDI editing if I wanted, just to make a change. And that's a passing chord. And that's really useful for doing that. It gives you a little bit more control over being able to manipulate the chords and move them around. And that, when we added MIDI editing, that really opened up that as well, So just quickly on that, you can move individual notes. You can change the length of the chord as a whole. You can remove notes by double-clicking on them, and then double-clicking to re-add them. So you've got quite a few options there. Again, gives you further options for customization. Then we've got the add button and duplicate. Add just lets you add another chord. Duplicate will take everything that you've got and double it up. Just saves you having to do it manually. And then good time just to show you undo and redo. I think they're quite self-explanatory. And then the sync option here. So what this does, this one's actually quite difficult to explain. So it's probably easier if I just show you. If I have a chord progression and it will start from the beginning, the same as in Logic. It ties up perfectly. But let's say I'm further into the song and I'm in a part of the timeline or a bar which doesn't sync up perfectly, because of the way I've written the song, and I want it to start here on a certain bar, not there. Okay, if you see, if I start from here, it's going to play from bar 1. If I start it from here, it'll start from bar 2. What if I start it from way down here? Say my vocal starts on right there for some reason. It's starting from here, from midway, but what if I want to start from the beginning? We can then put that there, press sync, and it tells you Captain Plugins is now synchronized from bar 43 in your DAW. Press OK, and voila. Captain will then start from that position instead. So it just allows you to, if you're already into the song and into the arrangement and you've got a vocal in a certain position, it's not lining up with Captain Plugins, you can use that to do it. Down here we've got Show, so we can customize the canvas a little bit with grid lines and labels. We've got Scale View. This is to do with the piano roll at the side, so we can change that from Fit to View to Scale View. So that's just only the notes which fall within the scale, so A minor, are going to be displayed. Or you can have the traditional view. And you see, and you're going to go out of scale view. This is like a normal piano. And then folded view, which just makes it a bit smaller and only the notes being used are displayed. So you've then got the settings up here. You can use your MIDI keyboard to detect chords. So if you play a chord in, Captain will show you what the chord is. It's really useful if you're learning to play the piano. Use MIDI input to play while in the Play tab. So if you're in the Play tab within Captain Chords, I'll just show you that. If you go to here, and you have a bit of MIDI on your computer already or in a track, and you play back, it will then come into this part here. And then you have, obviously this is a great option to leave ticked. Check for updates, send feedback, deauthorize this computer. So that'll remove your license, you don't want to do that. Break rhythm on chord change. So what this option does is if you have a rhythm, which means that the chord travels into what would be the next chord, what this does, it will just split the chord, and then it means that the chord will change regardless of the rhythm. It forces it to change. Let's just look at the tabs. So we've explained the MIDI in tab, Play tab, we haven't looked at. We'll come back to that in just a second. We've got verse, pre-chorus, chorus, drop. So these just allow you to create different chord progressions for each section of your song, but they also allow you to choose a key and scale independent. So if you've got a key change in the song, that's not going to be an issue. And then you've just got some options where you can save what you've done. You can copy it to another tab by just pressing copy and then paste. It'll light up when you copy it. So for example, if I go like this, copy and then paste, pastes it to there. You can also clear it like that. So if you've exported your MIDI to file, then you can re-import it using this option here. And then let's look at the Play tab. So what Captain Play or the Play tab does, now Captain Play is a plugin in itself, so you can use that independently, but each plugin has Captain Play included so that you can jam out ideas on the fly. So let's say you wanted to experiment or improvise. You can use your computer keyboard, just press that, and you can play along, just playing the chords in manually using your computer keyboard. You've got all the different chords mapped out here. You can move the octave up and down. You can toggle between different chords. You've got all these options. And once you're finished with your auditioning and you're happy with what you've got, you can press edit here and you can copy this into one of the tabs to then edit further. So it's a really powerful feature. And I more or less always start with this and then take what I've done in there into a verse and then edit it further. So it's a really strong feature. You can also do this with MIDI keyboard here. And this just gives you a few more options, so you can map out exactly how you want the keys to be played. So if you want just the in scale notes to be played, so if you press on your keyboard, you're only going to get the actual notes which are in the key and scale, not notes that fall out with the key and scale. So you've got lots of different ways to map those out, and you can add extra octaves like so if you've got a large keyboard. So that's Captain Chords. I hope this tutorial has been useful and it's answered any questions that you had or any uncertainty you had about how to use Captain Chords. If you're still unsure of anything, you can also have a look on our how-to guide here, which will take you to our website, and you can read up more on it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.